ठीक। हेलो। हेलो।
जी सर।
बेटा आवाज आ रही है?
जी सर आ रही है।
अच्छा ठीक है। नाउ वी विल स्टार्ट with the complications of otitis media, right? So, in the complications of otitis media, there is a list of the complications which will be divided into the intracranial and the extracranial complications. In the extracranial complications, there are mastocytitis, labyrinthitis, erythritis, facial nerve paralysis, otitis externa, thrombosis of the external jugular vein, and the chronic adhesive otitis media. But among all these complications, the three are very important. One is the mastocytitis, second is erythritis, and third is the facial nerve paralysis. In the intracranial complications, again there is a list. There is the extradural abscess, subdural abscess, brain abscess, meningitis, encephalitis, sigmoid sinus thrombosis, and otitic hydrocephalus. Today we will discuss only the extracranial complications. So the first important extracranial complication is mastocytitis. Now, what is the mastocytitis? It is actually the inflammation of the bony septa of the mastoid hair cells. Pathologically, what happens? By definition, this is only the inflammation of the bony septa of the mastoid hair cells. But if we will see the pathology, the first there is the inflammation of the hair cells. When this inflammation involves the mucosa covering these mastoid hair cells. So there will be the inflammation of the mucosa of the mastoid hair cells. When this inflammation extends beyond the mucosa of the mastoid hair cells, it will involve the bony septa of the mastoid hair cells. Like this, like you can see in this picture, these are the mastoid hair cells. In between the mastoid hair cells, these are the bony septas. Now all the mastoid hair cells, they are covered by the mucosa. So whenever there is infection of the hair cell, it will involve the mucosa of the hair cell. When this extends beyond the mucosa and involve these bony septa, and when there is the inflammation of these bony septas of the mastoid hair cell, then there will be the mastoiditis. Then it is called the mastoiditis. If it goes further, what will happen that these mastoid septas will be broken down due to the inflammation, and there will be the collection of the pus between the mastoid bone and the external skin. So there is a collection of the pus in the subperiosteal space of the mastoid bone. It will be collected in the subperiosteal space of the mastoid bone. Then this is called the subperiosteal abscess. So mastoiditis will change into the subperiosteal abscess when it involves the subperiosteum of the mastoid bone. Now, there are different abscesses which are caused by the mastoiditis. As I told you, that subperiosteal post-oral abscess, इसको post-oral abscess भी कहते हैं, subperiosteal abscess भी कहते हैं. Then there is the Sitley's abscess. What is Sitley's abscess? Where there is the inflammation of the tip of the mastoid, and there is a collection of the pus over the tip of the mastoid. It is called the Sitley's abscess. Then there is the Bizold abscess, when it involves the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle, and there is a collection of the pus or an abscess formation along the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle, then it is called the dissolved abscess. Then there is zygomatic abscess, where there is a collection of the pus at the zygoma, and then there is a polytizal abscess when there is a inflammation of the petrous apex. So subperiosteal abscess is the post-oral abscess behind the auricle. Sitley's abscess is when there is the accumulation of the pus at the tip of the mastoid. Resolved abscess when there is the involvement of the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Zygomatic abscess when there is involvement of the zygoma. And polytizal abscess when there is the involvement of the petrous apex. This is also called the petrositis. Now, what will be the clinical features in the mastoiditis? There is a collection of pus. Due to the pressure of the pus, there is definitely the pain. There is a collection of the pus, so there is fever, there is tenderness, and if you will touch the abscess, there is the fluctuating swelling. It can fluctuate from one side to the other side, very soft and fluctuating. Sometimes the skin में जो है वो एक fistula बन जाता है. This is called the discharging fistula because there is a necrosis of the skin, and whenever there is a necrosis of the skin, there is a formation of the fistula, which is called the discharging fistula. So there will be the pain, fever, tenderness, fluctuating swelling, and the discharging fistula. Sometimes it is again the complication. This abscess is just like this. This is whole. You can see the mastoid area is involved, and there is a collection, huge collection of pus behind the auricle on the mastoid area. And this swelling is the tender swelling. This is redness, there is a redness, there is tenderness, and this swelling is a fluctuating swelling, and it pushes the pinna forward. So when you see this picture in the patient, the fluctuating tender swelling behind the pinna, which causes the pinna to be pushed forward, then this is always the subperiosteal abscess, or it is the post-auricular mastoid abscess. So what sort of investigations you would like to have in these type of the patients? There is the pus in the extra-auditory canal. There is discharging ear, definitely, because it is either a chronic suppurative otitis media or acute suppurative otitis media. So the pus will be there in the extra-auditory canal. You can take easily the pus for the culture and sensitivity, and you can prescribe the antibiotic according to that culture and sensitivity. You can have the plain X-ray mastoid. Plain X-ray mastoid में क्या होगा? Mastoid hair cells will be hazy. There will be the hazy mastoid hair cells, and you can have the CT scan of the temporal bone like this. So you can have, can you see this blackish shadow here? These are the hair cells. These are normal hair cells, right? But this is the blackish shadow here, and this is the collection of the pus into the subperiosteal region of the mastoid bone. So the bony septa are involved, and subperiosteum is involved, and there is a collection of the pus into the subperiosteal space. So this is called the subperiosteal abscess. The importance of the CT scan is that you can diagnose the collection, the exact site of the collection of the pus, that whether it is in the hair cells, either the septa are involved or not, or there is a collection of the pus into the subperiosteal space. So you can ascertain the exact site of the collection of the pus into the mastoid area, and you can also have the other different complications with the intracranial complications also. It may be a possibility that there is an extracranial complication with the intracranial complication. So by this CT scan, you can diagnose that whether the intracranial complication is present or not, or is there only the extracranial complication, or there is the intracranial complication also. So the CT scan is also very, very important. Treatment definitely is very simple. First of all, you go for the antibiotics. Antibiotics should be given after the culture and sensitivity. Sometimes the antibiotic work, but in 90% of the cases, the antibiotic does not work. Why? Because there is the collection of the pus over there, and the antibiotic could not reach up to the site of infection due to the collection of the pus. The antibiotic does not reach up to the site of infection due to the pus formation. So pus does not allow the antibiotic to reach at the particular site. So sometimes in about 10% of the cases, the antibiotic works, but in 90% of the cases, the antibiotic does not work. So when the antibiotic does not work, you will go for the incision and drainage. Whenever there is the abscess, the treatment of choice is always the incision and drainage. You give the incision, drain the pus, and then give the antibiotic. Sometimes this incision, drainage, and antibiotic is sufficient, but in some cases, the mastoid air cells are hugely involved, so you have to remove those involved mastoid air cells, and for that, this cortical mastoidectomy is also the treatment of choice in these cases. So antibiotic, then there is the incision and drainage, and in the last, if there is a collection of pus, or there is again the infection, recurrence of the infection, then you will go for the mastoidectomy, but the cortical mastoidectomy only, if there is some periosteal abscess only there. So you will go for the cortical mastoidectomy or the mastoid exploration. So antibiotic, incision and drainage, and cortical mastoidectomy are the treatment options for these patients. The next is petrositis. What is petrositis? Petrositis is the infection when the infection reaches up to the petrous apex. There is the inflammation in the mucosa around the petrous apex, and that will involve the bone around the petrous apex. In the petrous apex, two nerves they pass through the petrous apex. One is the fifth cranial nerve, and that is trigeminal, and the sixth cranial nerve, that is facial. So whenever there is the petrositis, there is involvement of the fifth cranial nerve as well as the sixth cranial nerve also. So what will happen? What will be the clinical features? There will be unilateral headache, but mind it that headache is retroorbital headache. जो ऑर्बिट है उसके पीछे जाके पेशेंट को फील होगा पेन. So unilateral retroorbital type of headache will be present in these type of the cases. Then there is diplopia. Now this unilateral headache and this diplopia, these are due to the involvement of the fifth cranial nerve. So whenever there is the infection of the chronic suppurative otitis media, there is the running ear, there is a pus coming out through the extraorbital canal, and with that there is a unilateral retroorbital pain as well as the diplopia. Then all these three together, they form the Grundy-Koch syndrome. This is called the Grundy-Koch syndrome. I repeat it once again. The pussy discharge from the external auditory canal, retroorbital pain, and diplopia. These three things together is known as the Grundy-Koch syndrome, which is always present in the cases of the petrositis. What could be the treatment of petrositis? Again, you will give the antibiotics, the culture according to the culture and sensitivity, but the most important is that remove the air cells which are present in the vicinity of the petrous apex. So you will go for the mastoid exploration. This is must. So the treatment of choice is mastoid exploration along with the antibiotics, which are the according to the culture and the sensitivity. Arajo. So the next will be the facial nerve paralysis. Next. Okay, so if you'll go for the facial nerve paralysis is very common complication in the chronic suppurative otitis media, okay, because this facial nerve also runs through the mastoid bone, so there may be the involvement of the facial nerve and it causes the facial nerve paralysis. But there are certain other causes also for the facial nerve paralysis, so we will go in general as the facial nerve paralysis. There are different causes: brainstem tumors, cerebellopontine angle tumors, vascular accidents. अच्छा ये vascular accident क्या है? There is severe high blood pressure which may cause due to the pressure of the blood, it causes the facial nerve paralysis in the brain, which is known as the vascular accidents. और इसी में patient जो है वो paralyzed भी हो जाते हैं due to the increased blood pressure. There may be the poliomyelitis, there will be the multiple sclerosis, parotid tumors, very important. If there are especially the carcinomatous tumors of the parotid, they may cause the facial nerve paralysis. Otitis media, definitely acute or chronic, both may cause the facial paralysis. Bell's palsy. There may be the surgery which may cause the facial paralysis. What type of surgery? If you go for the mastoidectomy or mastoid exploration, you may damage the facial nerve and cause the facial paralysis. Or if you want to remove the parotid tumors, any type of the surgery on the parotid may cause the damage to the facial nerve and cause the facial paralysis. And trauma in both the three conditions. If in trauma there is a head injury, there may be the facial paralysis. If there is mastoid injury, there may be the facial paralysis. If there is the parotid injury, there may be the facial paralysis. So all these are the important causes. There are so many causes, but these are important causes for the facial nerve paralysis. Brainstem tumors, cerebellopontine angle tumors, vascular accidents, poliomyelitis, multiple sclerosis, parotid tumors, otitis media, Bell's palsy, surgery on parotid and mastoid, even on brain, and the trauma to the brain, mastoid, and the parotid may cause facial nerve paralysis. How can you go for the clinical examination of the patient when there is the facial nerve paralysis? You know that there are three parts of the facial nerve. One is the motor part, other is sensory part, third is the secretomotor part. So we will examine all these three parts. First of all, the motor part. How can you examine the motor part? Motor part means कि जो face के muscles हैं, which are supplied by the branches of the facial nerve, they are affected. So we want to examine those nerve fibers which go from the facial nerve to the different muscles of face. 5 branches होती हैं facial nerve की face में. तो वही 5 branches जो हैं वो हमें examine करने पड़ेंगे. The first branch is towards the forehead, muscles of the forehead. So if you see upwards, there are the furrowing of the forehead. There's a formation of furrows on the forehead due to the contraction of the muscles of the forehead. But if there is the facial nerve paralysis, this furrowing of the forehead will not be present on the paralyzed side. Then the closure of the eye. The eye muscles are also supported by the fibers of the facial nerve. So when these fibers are involved, the closure of the eye is also affected. The patient cannot close the eye. Nasolabial folds. You can see the nasolabial folds on both sides of the ala nasi on the face, and these nasolabial folds are not present where on the side of the paralysis. Then showing of teeth. If you ask the patient to show the teeth, there will be the deviation of the angle of the mouth on the paralyzed side. So the patient cannot show the teeth properly. Whistling test, patient cannot whistle because he has to push the vestibular muscles for the whistling. And these vestibular muscles are involved, they cannot be pursed while whistling, so the whistling is also absent. Patient cannot inflate the air into the oral vestibule. We can inflate the air in the oral vestibule. But if there is a facial paralysis, the muscles cannot work. So the air inflation in the oral vestibule is also affected. And the contraction of the platysma is also affected. So furrowing of the forehead, closure of the eye, nasolabial fold, movements of the ala nasi, showing of the teeth, whistling taste, air inflation in the oral vestibule, and contraction of platysma. These all things are affected when the motor part of the facial nerve is affected. Like this, you can see here very closely. You can see furrows here on the forehead. This is the normal side, but you cannot see the furrows on the forehead on this side. So this is the paralyzed side. And the teeth, you can see the deviation of the angle of the mouth towards the normal side. This is the paralyzed side. This is the normal side. So what will happen? This is where ये तो move ही नहीं कर रहे muscle. ये सिर्फ muscle move करेंगे तो ये deviate हो जाएगी angle. So there is a deviation of the towards the deviation of the angle of the mouth towards the normal side, not towards the paralyzed side, but towards the normal side. So there is a deviation of the angle when you ask the patient show the teeth. Now this is the nasolabial fold. This nasolabial fold is normally present in every human being, but you cannot see this type of the nasolabial fold on this side. So this is a nasolabial fold present on the normal side, but the nasolabial fold on paralyzed side is absent. If we'll go on the next, again, ask the patient to close the eye. He can close the eye on the normal side, but cannot close the eye on the paralyzed side. Again, this is the paralyzed side, and he is showing the teeth, so the angle of the mouth is deviated towards the normal side. So this is the examination of the motor part. How can you examine the sensory part? The sensory fibers of the facial nerve, they go to these are the taste fibers which go to the parotid gland and to the submandibular gland, from where the saliva is produced, and due to the saliva you can have the taste. There are taste buds which are supplied by the taste fibers. There are the fibers to the tongue muscles, and the tongue is also affected. Tongue may also be deviated if there is a facial nerve paralysis. So here we are going to see the sensory part. So we will see the taste. This is called taste test. So if you ask the patient to protrude the tongue and put the glucose over there, he cannot appreciate the taste of glucose. If you will put some just like अगर आप नींबू निचोड़ लें उसके ज़बान पे, तो he cannot appreciate the taste of that lemon. So the taste is affected when the sensory part of the facial nerve is affected. Mostly we use the glucose because the glucose is in a powder form, and it stimulates the taste buds very easily and within no time. So when the patient cannot appreciate the taste of glucose, it means that the sensory part of the facial nerve is affected. How will you test the secretomotor part? For the secretomotor part, we do the Schimmer's test. What is Schimmer's test? Secretomotor part fibers, they go to the glands which produce the tears in the eye, the lacrimal gland. So we will test the lacrimal gland by this Schimmer's test. We will put the litmus paper in the lower fornix of the eye. If there is a tearing, that litmus paper color will be changed from blue to red, right, or from red to blue. So when there is no change of the litmus paper, it means that no tears are produced. And when the no tears are produced, it means that the secretomotor of the facial nerve are affected. So these three important deviants of the facial nerve should be examined in every patient. The motor, sensory, as well as the secretomotor. Now, how will you investigate the facial nerve paralysis? The first and most basic investigation for the diagnosis of the facial nerve paralysis is the impedance audiometry. मैंने लास्ट टाइम आपको बताया था कि impedance audiometry क्या होती है. We give the sound to the ear and there will be formation of the graph which shows three things. Number one, the pressure of the middle ear. Number two, the compliance of the structures of the middle ear. And the third thing is the stapedial reflex. So when you give the sound, it will stimulate the nerve to the stapedius muscle, which is connected with the stapedius bone. So there is a contraction of the stapedius muscle in order to contract or to fix all the three ossicles of the ear, malleus, incus, and stapes, so that a large amount of the sound should not go to the internal ear, otherwise the internal ear will be damaged. This is the normal procedure. When a loud sound goes into the ear, there is the stimulation of the nerve to the stapedius. There will be the contraction of the stapedius muscle. There will be the fixation of the ossicles, malleus, incus, and stapes, and the sound cannot be conducted to the internal ear. Otherwise, the internal ear will be damaged. So this is called a reflex, which is known as the stapedial reflex. And we can also get the stapedial reflex in the impedance audiometry. So in the impedance audiometry, if the stapedial reflex is absent, it means that the facial nerve is paralyzed on that side. अगर हम दोनों कान जो है उसमें अगर impedance audiometry करें दोनों कानों की, तो अगर एक कान में stapedial reflex आ रहा है और दूसरे कान में stapedial reflex नहीं आ रहा, it means that there is the paralysis of the facial nerve. So this is very basic investigation for the paralysis of the facial nerve. There are some other investigations also. There are electrodiagnostic investigations or electrodiagnostic tests which are very important to investigate the facial nerve paralysis. In these tests, we used to give the electric current to the facial nerve or to the muscles of the face. So here into the first minimal nerve excitability test. Minimal nerve excitability test is a test where we give a minimal current to see the contraction of the muscle on both the sides. If there is a contraction of the muscle on one side, but on the other side there is no contraction of the muscle, it means that there is the facial nerve paralysis. Very simple. The minimum amount of the electric current is passed and that causes the contraction of the muscle. Second is electromyography. Now, electromyography is the test where we give the current to the muscles of the facial nerve, face, to the muscles of the face. If we give the electric current to the muscle of the face, we can record the electrical activity of the muscle fibers. Muscle fiber activate हो रहे हैं कि नहीं हो रहे हैं by giving the electric current. If the muscle fiber activity is present on one side, but it is absent on the other side, it means that it is the facial nerve paralysis. So in the electromyography, we see the electrical activity of the muscle fibers. Electroneuronography is again we give the electric current to the nerve itself, facial nerve itself. And by giving this electric current, we can see the percentage of the degenerated nerve fibers. अगर nerve paralysis हो गई है तो कितने परसेंट फाइबर्स इन्वॉल्व हुए हैं, ताकि हमें पता चले कि कितने फाइबर इन्वॉल्व हुए हैं और हम ट्रीटमेंट क्या दें। अगर थोड़े से फाइबर इन्वॉल्व हुए हैं तो फिर तो मसला नहीं है। अगर बहुत ज़्यादा फाइबर इन्वॉल्व हो गए हैं, नेक्रोसिस हो गई है, मसल के फाइबर हैं ही नहीं, तो वो रिजनरेट फिर नहीं हो सकते, फिर उसके लिए दूसरी चीज़ें करनी पड़ेंगी। So in order to see that, we by electroneuronography, we see the percentage of the degenerated nerve fibers. So these three tests are very important. Minimal nerve excitability, when minimum amount of current is given to the nerve for the contraction of the muscles, to see the contraction of the muscles with your eye. Electromyography, you can take the graph in the electromyogram, and by this graph you can see the electrical activity of the muscle fibers. And electroneuronography is again a graph. By this graph, you can see the percentage of the degenerated nerve fibers. Now, there was a question, Bell's palsy kya hoti hai? What is Bell's palsy? It is again a facial nerve paralysis, but without any cause. There is no cause in the Bell's palsy. Still, exact etiology is unknown for the Bell's palsy. But some people say that it is the viral infection, and that viral infection causes the facial nerve paralysis, or there is a local ischemia due to the severe cold. कहते हैं ना कि वो बंदा बहुत ज़्यादा कोल्ड में चला गया, बर्फबारी हो रही थी, facial paralysis हो गई. So, three things. Exact etiology is unknown. There may be the viral infection which caused the facial paralysis, and there may be the local ischemia which caused the facial paralysis. So any facial paralysis without any cause is known as the Bell's palsy. Now, what will be the treatment of the facial paralysis? If there is a Bell's palsy, then this is very easy to regenerate the fibers by physiotherapy. Send the patient for the physiotherapy to the physiotherapist for the physiotherapy. They give certain exercises, they give heat, and they give certain exercises to regenerate the fibers. So physiotherapy is the basic mode of treatment if there is a Bell's palsy, mind it. We can give the steroids if there is a Bell's palsy, because there may be the viral infection, and that viral infection causes the inflammation. And steroids are the strong anti-inflammatory agents. So for that reason, you give the steroids if there is a Bell's palsy. Antiviral agents you can give. If there is a viral infection and you think that this Bell's palsy is due to the viral infection, you can give antiviral agents. Beta-histine hydrochloride is a drug which increases the blood circulation. So if you think that the Bell's palsy or the facial nerve paralysis is due to the severe cold and there is ischemia, the blood circulation is decreased, then you can give the beta-histine hydrochloride. It causes the vasodilation, and it will cause the increased flow of the blood to the facial nerve. So these four things, the physiotherapy, steroids, antiviral agents, and beta-histine hydrochloride. These four things are very important for the treatment of the Bell's palsy. But if the facial nerve paralysis is due to the ear infection, or due to the carotid infection, or due to the surgery, or due to the trauma, then this is very important to go for the surgical decompression. Because if there is suppose we are exploring the mastoid, and you have damaged the nerve, we have damaged the nerve. Whole nerve is not damaged, but the sheath is damaged. Then there is the inflammation of the sheath of the nerve. There will be the swelling of the nerve, and that swelling will cause the compressing of the fibers at the facial nerve paralysis. So we have to decrease the inflammation also. So you can give the steroids in this case also to decrease the inflammation. These are good anti-inflammatory agents. And with that, we go for the surgical decompression. Open the facial nerve and open the nerve sheath as a whole. The whole of the nerve sheath, we give the incision in the whole of the nerve sheath, So the nerve will become open, the sheath will become open. So there will be no pressure due to the edema. This is called surgical decompression. लेकिन अगर कोई आपने ऐसी सर्जरी की है जिसमें नर्व जो है वो कट गई है बिल्कुल, आपने नर्व ही काट दी पूरी की पूरी, then this is very important to go for the end-to-end anastomosis. You open the nerve, see the severed ends जहाँ पे आपने काटा है, दोनों ends को मिलाएं और उसको stitch कर दें. This is called end-to-end anastomosis. So these two things, the surgical decompression and the end-to-end anastomosis are very, very important as far as the trauma is concerned or the surgery is concerned. So if there is any question, I'm coming to you within 1 or 2 seconds. Unmute you.
गर्ल्स के
मेरी आवाज आ रही है बेटा?
Yes, sir.
Is there any question? No. Is there any question? Nida? Is Nida present?
Yes, sir.
Amna Memon?
Yes, sir. Bhavna Gautam present.
Okay. So is there any question?
Yes.
Is there any question?
No, sir. No, sir.
Thank you.
No, sir.